So this is my first time at DonutJS. I'm really excited to be here. I heard about DonutJS a while back, and I've always wanted to come. So thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be here. This is me. My name is Tara. So you usually see this picture of me online, mostly because this is what I look like anyway, so I figured it was a good representation, and also because of this one. This is my dog, Toshi for short, Toshi Magosh. So this is her derp face, and I think it's the best face in the world, so I keep it there. I'm actually from Cincinnati, Ohio, and in Cincinnati I helped start and run the Node School Cincy, and I founded and direct the Cincinnati Women Who Code. So community means a lot to me, and that's one of the big reasons that I switched from software engineering to developer advocacy. Does anybody know what developer advocates are? Nice. It's always like two hands. So I try to explain it a little bit. Basically, I still write code. I used to write Node software, still write code. But now once I write it, I try to give talks about it. I try to do blog posts, and I don't usually try to wear a taco shirt, but I will if they make me. And the whole thing is basically I'm learning how to do things every day. And then once I really understand what I'm doing, I then try to help you learn it by making blog posts, making webinars, doing talks. And I was doing this for free. So I was doing this in my free time at Women Who Code, at Node School. And then somebody said, we will pay you to do this. And I was like, all right. So that company is, has anybody heard of Progress or Progress Software? So they also have a company under them called Telerik. And has anybody heard of Telerik? All right, so they were actually acquired by Progress. So now Telerik is Progress, and I am Progress. So I work on their libraries. That's the Kendo UI for Angular and Kendo UI for jQuery, and now we're also doing one for React. And basically, these are UI components for these libraries. And we basically make it easier for you to code these things like inputs and buttons, all the way up to grids and data visualizations, but they're built from the ground up, so they act like native components in Angular, and they will in React soon. But one of the great things, they want me to reach out to people, and they want me to talk to developers and see how people like the product, and they're also basically like, if you want to go talk, where do you want to do it? What do you want to do? And I was like, well, can I take a camper and go up the West Coast and go to a bunch of user groups and meet people? And they're like, yeah. So this is my life now. And that's actually our setup up top. It's a 1977 solid state Apache Ramada. Yeah. So what this is basically, you usually just see that green part. So it pops up, and all of the sides are hard. So it like rolls up and out. But my manager didn't even realize this and got me this Lego set that was so spot on. It's creepy. Like I even have like the dude and the dog, but I'm looking for that like torso-sized hot dog. I don't know. I have a feeling Portland will have it. Just saying. So on this trip, I wanted to do a project dedicated to this trip. And so I decided to do an IoT PWA using Angular Node. Why? Well, so there's a lot of reasons. I want to learn a bunch of things, but I wanted to learn IoT lighting. And this is our setup. So this is inside of the camper. There's not a lot of outlets, there's not a lot of lights. And then sometimes we want to code outside, because look at this. That's actually a cliff. You can hardly see it, but this is above where Sundance is held. So I basically decided I wanted to do lights, and I wanted to learn these things: Philips Hue, Angular, Kendo UI, and Node.js. Philips Hue I'll dig into. Angular, it's about my job, what we work with, so I want to learn it more so I can help. And Kendo UI, again, I want to be able to really understand my product. And then I used to be a Node developer, and I can't let go of Node. I love that community too much. And so I'm using Node and Express to talk to the Hue API. So I knew my checklist was this. I had to make sure it worked, because if I hit the road and nothing worked, that would be bad, and they may fire me, and I would have to pay for my own camper rent, and that would be awful. But then After that, I could make the app, I could make the components, and then I would attach it to talk to the API, and then upgrade it to a progressive web app. So why did I choose the Philips Hue? First of all, look how this woman looks at this light. Like, don't you want to look at a light that way? But really, they have it plugged in this picture, but it is wireless. So I need a wireless light. Philips Hue had it. And then I checked out their API, and it was really impressive. They had a whole developer program with all kinds of resources. And they also, their API was well documented. Like, we know how important it is to have well documented code. So that made it a lot easier. So what you usually do is take, there's a Hue, does anybody have a Hue light system at home? Nice. So you have a Hue bridge, a physical device that you hook up into the Ethernet. And you usually do this to your Wi-Fi router at home. I don't have a home. So that wouldn't work. But I realized I could just get a Ethernet adapter for my Thunderbolt on my MacBook and then plug it in there. But it turns out I cannot. Because Yosemite and Sierra both don't let you connect to wireless devices. But thankfully, my husband is not a Mac person, so he had, have you heard of these Lenovo things? Yeah, so they actually have Ethernet ports in them. How crazy. So I was able to bridge the connection with the Hue bridge through the Ethernet onto our Wi-Fi connection, and it worked. It let me, oh, that's not on my slide. I can do a short little video. This is actually the Philips Hue debugger, and that's really nice too. It's for their API, so you can put calls through there and make stuff work through their debugger, which is also another great developer tool. So, moving on. We now figured out that it works. So at this point, I would usually jump in to do a live demo, but for such a short talk, I am going to just show you the code that Toshi has been doing and working on. You should hire her. So first, has anybody used the Angular CLI here? So I ended up using the CLI, and it makes everything so much faster. So with that, you just do ng new, and you do a project name. I named this Hugo because you go and your Hue goes along with you. You get it? Yeah. So just to show you what this looks like, these are the files that come down when you use the CLI. And then we'll go into the source, we'll go in, and it has all of our app files, and then in our app folder, these are the actual folders, files that we're going to be working with. But I'm just doing a very quick overview because this is just kind of skimming the surface of everything, but I want to at least show you what this kind of looks like. So this is what basically the index, the HTML, the template will look like. And this section is where I add the first Kendo component, and that's a switch. So when you do that, you're basically adding in angle brackets what that component's name is and attaching it, binding it with an ng model. And that's basically binding it to the property and the function. So that part is doing that with the switch, and then this part is doing it with the slider. So the thing that I like about using the Kendo library is that's all I had to do to make UI components. So it makes it so much faster to get a more robust app. And then inside of that, or in your component TypeScript folder, you're basically taking what you've assigned on that left-hand side and putting actual values on top of it. So that's all you have to do once you install the library to attach those things. So a place to really dig into that is the kendoui.com, and I wanted to show you this part because this is my favorite. Not only do they give you an example of what your code should look like if you code it right, but they also give you all the source code of all the files and a plunker, because I don't know about you, but when I code, I break stuff constantly. So I need to see what it looks like when it actually works. So that's there for that. So basically, we did the IoT, we made sure it worked, we created the app, and added the components. Then I realized I could just do the PWA now and upgrade it now. So there are 3 big parts to progressive web apps. Has anybody dug into progressive web apps yet? Okay. This again will be kind of top level, but I wanted to make it a little interactive. So we'll be talking about app shell, service workers, and app manifest. Those are the 3 biggest things about progressive web apps. So I wanted to make it a little interactive, so I decided to do Limerick Challenges. Does anybody here like Limerick Challenges? Yay, okay. So we're gonna go line by line because animations are fun, right? So to make your app load real well, kiss all that data farewell. Just add what you need, then you'll see some speed. We'll just load our app. Show! Good job. Okay. There's only 16 more of those. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. So to give you a quick understanding of what an app shell is, it's basically saying, take all of that stuff, the minimum HTML, the minimum CSS, and the minimum JavaScript, so that a user can interact with your site, or see it, at least see what something's happening, that first real paint. And we can take those, separate those out so that we can cache them and load those as fast as possible, not relying on loading data, not getting all the information, not waiting for anything. And then if you cache it, it can load it immediately. So basically, cache these files, fill in the data when it's available. You can find more information on Angular's mobile toolkit, and I put the link in there. I'll share these slides after. But that kind of gives you a good rundown of basically take the shell, load it so it comes back quick, and users know that they're interacting with your site. Another Limerick challenge. All right. When your network is being a shirker, you can serve up this little lurker. Make your load times much fast with no running app. It's time for a service worker. Yay! Good job. So a few points that I want to hit on here are basically when your network is being slow, you don't have fast network speeds. So remember when 3G was huge and people were like, whoa, 3G, that's awesome. No, 3G sucks. Like, we go up in the mountains nowadays and we'll hit 4G and we're like, well, guess we can't do anything. It's ridiculous how slow it is. And there are still a lot of countries that are working on 2G. So you have to keep those things in mind because we love our users. And service workers are a very complicated matter. But the way that we can look at them is that they're sitting between our network and our browser. And so if you know at Kasamari, it's Mariko, she has a really great article, and you can find it on her Twitter, where she talks about exactly what these service workers are doing. But basically, it's a JS file that's running in your browser in the background. It's separate than your web page. So that's why I said it's like a lurker. So you don't have to have your app open. It's basically still running, and so it has the ability to handle fetch events. Ooh, making fetch happen. Never gonna happen. So it can intercept and respond network requests, and this is why service workers always have to be coming through on HTTPS, because they can be dangerous. Because you can basically make up a new fetch event, and that could be very dangerous. So you have to always serve it from HTTPS, or you can do it on localhost is the only exception. But the biggest thing about them is they can do all this work for you behind the scenes to cache things and make things happen, and they can go to sleep and be woken up by different events as well. So I want to give you a little look at what this looks like. So this first part, you're actually just registering it. You have to register it because some browsers don't support it just yet. But this is a progressive enhancement. So if you put this into your code, you want to check first to see if it's even recognized. But if it's not going to break anything. So in a way, you're kind of doing preventative coding. So you have your stuff set up for the browsers that have, billions of users that can make service workers work. But when everybody else is catching up to add their service workers, you can sit back with a glass of wine and say, I already did that. And we do that with, so this is SW Precache that will do all this work for you, and you can tell it to do your app shell, and basically go in there and once you build your project, put all of these files in there to tell it to cache it. So this basically you build in with the CLI, and then you can run a script of npm run precache to do this all for you. So you can see down there, this is Hugo, and it says that we have our service worker in there. And now I'm actually offline. You can see offline is clicked, and it's existing there. And so on, like with Ivana's talk, we were saying about teams that suck. And that quarterback that was on the Texans, was it Orweiler? He's actually on the Browns, the Cleveland Browns football team now. So that's great. But the Browns do have a service worker. So there's that. So yay? I don't know. Another Limerick Challenge. Okay, I'll make this quick. To make your PWA look like the rest, this JSON file is the best. It makes full screen views and home screen cues. Let's add an app. Yay! Oh, yeah, there it is. Yay! So the app manifest is basically just a file telling the mobile application or whoever's using it, looking at the manifest, what this should look like on a mobile platform, what the icons should look like. When it opens up, make sure that's a full screen view. So in the index.html, we just make a reference to it, and the link rel is manifest. And then we add that file. And this is a very simple version of what that looks like, with kind of telling what the display name should be, theme colors, backgrounds, icons, and you can add much more to this. So basically, we have all those things. So my next step for my next talks will be to integrate the IoT API, and that is in the works now. And I also want to add more things as we go on, as far as like sensors and doing the speech recognition apps. Because do any of you like talking to your devices? I feel like it's such a debate, but I love it. So adding those things in the future. And if you want to try, this is the GitHub you can follow me on and make issues. Let me know if you want to add anything. And I also have some giveaways if you want to talk to me afterward. We also have a 15% off of our dev tools with this promo code down here, PROMKCT7. And I have a bunch of shirts. Feel free to grab them. Women's sizes are on the left, men's on the right. And again, thank you so much for having me here.